to begin by having you join me in thanking the title sponsor for the Orange County Forum for the 4th year in a row, UCI and UCI Health. Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful support. Let's also give a big thank you to this afternoon's presenting sponsors, First Five and PNC Bank. Appreciate you helping make today possible. I also want to recognize our promotional event sponsor, the Orange County Department of Education. All right. And our community event sponsor, the Orange County United Way. Where's the United Way folks? Thank you both for your contributions to today's event. And of course, you'll see on the screens all of our OC Forum ongoing sponsors. It's their generous support that allows us to continue great programs like today. Additionally, I'm blessed to work with a board of directors that includes some very talented and dedicated folks who generously give their time and talents to the OC Forum. And every month they're excited for me to do this. Would my fellow board members please stand and be recognized? Come on, board members. Tiffany in the back. These are the folks that do all the hard work, along with ComLab. Yes, you're welcome. I believe there are some elected officials and their representatives in the House this afternoon. If so, would you please stand and allow us to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us? Come on. There we go. Thank you. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, at this time, I'm really excited to welcome to the stage PNC Bank's Regional President and Head of Corporate Banking here in Orange County and in the Inland Empire, Jared Engel. He is going to share a few words with us. Jared, come on up.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
So I think it's officially good afternoon. Good to see everyone. My name is Jared Engel. I'm the Region President for PNC Bank here in Orange County and Inland Empire. Really excited to be here today with you. Please eat and enjoy your meal. We're going to have a real exciting presentation today. PNC is proud to be the title sponsor of this event. And if you haven't heard of us before, let me tell you a little bit about PNC. As a locally rooted bank with national scale and capabilities, PNC is deeply committed to the success of the communities where we live, work, and play. Part of this commitment is a strong focus on early childhood education. For 20 years, PNC's signature philanthropic initiative, PNC Grow Up Great, a $500 million bilingual initiative, has helped to prepare children from birth through age 5 for success in school and in life, with particular emphasis on underserved communities. Since the start of PNC Grow Up Great, more than 10 million children have been supported through grants and educational programs. Our support of early childhood education is a strategic investment to help broaden opportunities for social and economic mobility among at-risk children. PNC Grow Up Great strives to eliminate barriers so that every child can succeed. If children do well in school, this can help to minimize income disparities later in life. Here in Orange County, we're proud to work with partners who are dedicated to serving our community through educational opportunities for our youngest learners. This afternoon, we are going to hear from some outstanding leaders who play a critical role in the investment and support of early childhood development. So before we hear from them, we'd like to show a brief video that highlights a little bit about PNC Grow Up Great.
What can you become? In 2004, PNC posed this simple question. If given a great start, what could children from birth to 5 achieve in their lifetime? From the beginning, PNC partnered with early childhood education experts, provided teachers with resources and support, provided volunteer opportunities for employees,
The crayons came home.
Supported science and cultural organizations to instill a love of learning, and advocated on a state and national level for expanded access for early childhood education. What can our children become? What can they achieve in their lifetime? Because we know that education is a powerful means for economic and social mobility. PNC Grow Up Great is helping to shape tomorrow's healers, teachers, and leaders. Together, we will build futures full of hope and accomplishment, one child at a time.
So there you go. So thank you so much for allowing PNC to be part of this program. We're really excited to be here, and I will turn it over to the experts now. Thank you.
Well, the experts are coming. You're still stuck with me for a minute. So thank you so much, Jared. You know, we appreciate all that you and the team at PNC do in and for our community. Now, our next guest speaker is going to give a brief overview of the early childhood development data that provides some background insight into today's topic. I've been very fortunate to see firsthand the wonderful work that she has done over the years, and more importantly, the powerful impact she's made in our community. Please turn your attention to the screens as we play an introduction video and then bring Lisa Burke, First Five's Vice President of Learning and Community Engagement, to the stage.
It starts even before a child is born. Their brains are already developing in the womb. And once they're born, the first 5 years just might be the most important time in a child's life. What happens during these 5 years will affect them when they're older, as a teenager, at 21 years old, and 40, and 60. This critical time period sets kids up for their best chance at a lifetime of health, of happiness, of growth, of feeling secure, of being nurtured, of being loved. And that's where we come in. We are First Five Orange County, and we believe that all young children deserve to reach their full potential. That's why we strive to make sure Orange County's young children have access to all the physical, social, emotional, and educational tools to put them on the path to a lifetime of health and happiness. That means developmental screenings to help kids who need support now and identify those who may need some extra help later. Encouraging parents to play with their kids with meaningful face-to-face interactions. Providing early learning activities to make sure kids are ready for school. Promoting a safe and stable home and erasing the stigma of asking for help. Working with neighborhoods so they can support young families with things like childcare, safe places to play, and access to healthy food. And supporting the county's most vulnerable families and reducing the equity gap and disparities that exist. But we know we can't do it alone. It takes collaboration and assistance from cities, schools, businesses, communities, leaders, and more. In a word, it takes you. It takes us. No matter where a family is on their journey, we're here to help at any point along the way. We are First Five Orange County.
Well, thank you, and good afternoon. As John mentioned, as you all know, the name for today's luncheon is Early Childhood is Everyone's Business. But is it really? I'm going to take the next 10 minutes or so and try to convince you that it really is and why you should care. But let's start with the question. So look at these three categories: a year's worth of daily Starbucks, a year of tuition at Cal State Fullerton, and a year of childcare for a toddler. Kind of warming you up a bit for my topic here. By a show of hands, who thinks that a year's worth of daily Starbucks is the most expensive thing on that list there? No takers? None of you have that Starbucks habit? Okay, how about a year of tuition at Cal State Fullerton? Any takers? Oh, I got all ringers in the crowd. A year of childcare for a toddler. Or at least maybe you all have the experience here in Orange County. Well, you are all correct. A year's worth of Starbucks, maybe about $1,800 if you do the $5 a day thing. Cal State Fullerton tuition, $7,500 a year. But to send a toddler to childcare for a year is upwards of $15,000 a year. So now I'd like to introduce you to a typical Orange County family. This is Sylvia and her parents, David and Maria. Now, Sylvia is almost 3 years old, and both Maria and David work full-time. In fact, Maria has a little side gig going on to try to help make ends meet. Sound familiar to anyone? Sylvia was born healthy, and David and Maria think she's growing up just fine. But she hasn't been able to make it to all of her well-child visits, and she hasn't had a developmental screening. And when they're with friends, with other little kids, they notice that maybe she's not babbling quite as much as the other kids in the playgroup. They're kind of worried, but their friends say, don't worry about it, give it time, maybe she's just a late bloomer. And honestly, their biggest concern is childcare. It's been a struggle for them to find affordable childcare since Sylvia was born. They couldn't find it when she was a baby, let alone nearby their home. So they piece it together with babysitters, neighbors, friends, family. They do the best they can, but it definitely is impacting their work. And so that's too bad for David and Maria, but what about you? Why should you care about a family like this and many, many others like them in Orange County? Well, First 5 Orange County did a landscape analysis of childcare in Orange County, and we found that there is a huge lack of childcare for infants and toddlers. In fact, there are 21 infants and toddlers for every licensed space in Orange County. Now, granted, not all of those kids are going to need childcare, but even if a third of the kids needed childcare, still 6 out of 7 families would be out of luck piecing things together just like David and Maria. Childcare in the first 3 years of life is costly. As I mentioned, the average annual price of full-time center-based care in Orange County for one infant or toddler is $15,650. 2 kids, upwards of $26,000. So that's tough for any family. It's a big price tag, but especially for families that are just above the threshold for any kind of subsidy, it's a killer. So with families stretched thin, financially, emotionally, time-wise, what does that mean for our local business and communities? As part of that study, we conducted an economic impact analysis, in fact, led by the venerable Dr. Wallace Walrod in the audience today, which showed that because of the lack of childcare, so specifically connected to childcare, we lose 67,000 jobs annually, $4.3 billion in productivity and lost wages, $372 million in annual tax revenue. And why? Why is that? This is what we heard from parents. Because 1 in 5 parents arrive late to work due to gaps in childcare. 1 in 6 have to leave work early on a regular basis. 1 in 10 parents chose to resign or lose their jobs due to childcare challenges, and 1 in 11 are forced to reduce their hours or can't take full-time positions. And this is Orange County data. This is us that we're talking about. Lack of affordable childcare is a contributor to families' financial hardship. And financial hardship is one reason that families are moving out of Orange County. We had a net loss of 15,000 residents between 2021 and 2022. And the year before that, more than 23,000 residents. I'll quote the most recent Orange County Community Indicators report, which says, policymakers and stakeholders need to keep an eye on the labor market and consumer trends, because as the average person, so think David and Maria and Sylvia, as they continue to struggle with increasing financial hardship, so local, county, and industry leaders must rethink outdated policies and craft impactful strategies and programs aimed at better supporting local residents and work. So I would contend that this is not just a them problem, this is an us problem. So now I have another question for you. Look at these 3 categories. We've got children ages 0 to 5, pretty small group of people. Adults, 25 to 44, a little bit larger age range, or seniors, 65 and over. So let me see by a show of hands, who thinks that the little ones are the ones growing fastest in Orange County? Got some brave souls over here, good, yes? How about adults 25 to 44? 1 or 2? Okay, seniors, 65 and older. Yes, this crowd knows its data. You are right. Look at this scary graph. So the orange line is seniors, 65 and over. All the other age groups, all those other lines you see are on the decline over the next 40 years. Our birth rate is dropping, and our population is aging. We need families to stay in Orange County and for their children to grow up healthy and thriving so that we have a vibrant future workforce that's contributing to the economy and the social supports, all the social supports that our seniors, and I'm going to be part of that category in the not too distant future, are going to need. We need a thriving workforce for that. So let's talk for a minute about our future workforce. In other words, young children. Just like Maria, 1 in 6 children under the age, sorry, not Maria, Sylvia. 1 in 6 children under the age of 3 do have a developmental delay, with estimates that nearly 80% of these children do not receive the vital intervention services that can help them close the developmental gap. Our partners at CalOptima Health were gracious enough to share their data with us, and for children enrolled in Medi-Cal, and that's about 40% of Orange County's children 5 and under, just over half receive the recommended well-child visits in their first 15 months of life, and only 1 in 4 receive a developmental screening. So if kids aren't getting to their well-child visits, they're not getting their developmental screenings. If they're not getting that developmental screening, we're not identifying any potential delays or risks and could get them some support to grow up into the most full child and adult that they could be. In fact, First Five's own early developmental index data shows that only about 1 in 2 kids are on track on all their development when they start kindergarten, from physical health to social skills, emotional health, communication, speech. Kids that enter kindergarten healthy and ready to learn are more likely to have academic success, higher levels of education, and secure employment. So again, think future workforce. That's these kiddos. A few years ago, we commissioned some research by Dr. Greg Duncan from UCI. There's a UCI table here, I think. Yes, goes UCI. His study confirmed how important these early skills are. The kids' health and readiness at kindergarten predict their success for 3rd grade math and literacy. And that statistics I gave you, the about 1 in 2 already, that was a countywide average. But depending on where you live in the county, some children and families have greater challenges and start out behind their peers. So you see the different shades on this map, from the light blue to the dark blue, and it's a grade between areas where kids are showing up ready for school, that's the lighter blue, down to lower percentage of kids ready when they hit kindergarten in the darker blue. Up to sometimes 2/3 of kids are not ready. Kids that start out behind, it's tough to catch up in their education and as their career path continues. So again, why should you care? Beyond having empathy for these kids and families, which I'm sure we all do, data shows that their hardship impacts our society, our economy, our tax burden in real, tangible ways. And again, I would propose that children's health and development is not just a them problem, it's an us problem to make sure that they get the best possible start in life that will continue through their education and career, hopefully staying here in Orange County. So there's an expression you may or may not be familiar with. It's pretty common in the world I work in, which is whole child, whole family. So what does that mean? We know that kids don't exist in silos. They live in families. And when families are struggling financially, emotionally, with childcare, at work, making sure their kids have everything they need to thrive, it actually impacts all of us. I believe that the path to changing those negative outcomes to positive ones is to invest in prevention. Prevention for the whole family, and that means investing in early childhood. To quote Bishop Tutu here, there comes a point where we need to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. First Five Orange County and many other partners across the county are doing just that. And in a moment, you're going to hear from several panelists who are working to create those positive outcomes and change the life experience for our youngest children and their families. I hope this inspires you to think about how and where you can have a hand in prevention activities, not just to support these families and young children, but to benefit from our economy, help our businesses thrive, and our population to live well, from young families all the way through seniors, because early childhood is everyone's business. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa. As the grandfather of 5, 4, and under, I'm excited for what the solutions are going to be told here. Our esteemed guest moderator was appointed the president and CEO of First 5 Orange County in May 2016, after serving as the director of strategy and operations since 2002. She's a tireless advocate for child development, school readiness, and the improvement of health, education, and wellness for young children and families. She's elevated the profile of First 5 among national and state organizations. In addition to being smart, strategic, and talented, she's simply one of the county's really great people. Please welcome to the stage today's moderator, Kim Goll.
All right. Is this on? Yes, okay. Well, good afternoon. And before we introduce the panel and we get going in a hopefully robust conversation about what's happening in Orange County to improve outcomes for young children, I want to give another thank you to Lisa and the team at First 5. We are a data warehouse, and Lisa pulled a tremendous amount of data together to try and make a story for you all that helps to be impactful and inspirational about the work that needs to get done in early childhood. So a huge thanks to Lisa and the team at First 5 for pulling that together. And what you heard Lisa talk about is that it really does take a community to change any of these outcomes. And the way in which First 5 looks at its work is the child is at the center, then the family, then the most direct community around them that they're living in, and then the distribution of resources that affect that child's life and that family's life. So what you're going to hear about today is not only personal interaction with what they're doing to improve children's lives, but hopefully what you'll take away is the importance that we're working at every single one of those levels, and we're advocating for each individual child and for the investment in early childhood as well. So with that, I want to invite Ben Juarez to come on up to the stage. I think one of the most important credentials for Ben is that he is a father, and he is spent his career working in youth mentoring. He's getting his master's degree, and most importantly for First 5, Ben has worked with First 5 over the last 2+ years as a family ambassador, helping us center family voice within the work that we do, holding us accountable, so that when we're thinking about the ways in which we invest our money, we're always thinking about how that is affecting families, how is it actually alleviating a barrier, and have we fully thought that all the way through before we started to implement. So next guest up on the stage is going to be Dr. Sanaei. I hope I said her name right. I've been practicing it. She is the lead pediatrician at Our Selves down in Costa Mesa and Newport Beach. It's a federally qualified health center. She fully embraces the whole child, whole family approach in her healthcare delivery of services to our youngest residents. And so we're really excited to hear about the work that you're doing. Thank you. Next, I'm going to welcome Scott Miller to the stage. He leads the Habra Collaborative, which houses our Little Learners Collaborative that First 5 supports, that is directly looking at ways in which cross-sector, multi-sector collaboratives within a community or a city can use their power, their advocacy, their ability to provide direct services to enhance the lives of very young children. So we're excited to have Scott here and share with us his work. And last but definitely not least is Denise Scott, Vice President for PNC Bank. She is the arm of implementation for that Grow Up Great program, and I can speak personally that she is a fantastic partner in our community and has done amazing work putting PNC's money where their mouth is and making investments here in Orange County that actually have benefited 0 to 5 kids. So proud of that partnership, so proud of the work that PNC Bank does in partnership with so many of us in the room today. So I'm going to kick it off. I keep dropping my paper. Apologize for that. I need a podium or something. I'm going to kick it off with a question for everybody here. So whoever wants to jump in and answer this first, go ahead. Based on the data and the stories you just heard, what resonates with you, and what are you seeing in the communities that you work in?
Well, for me, it's the why, the statement about the why and that everybody needs to be a part of early childhood. For us, we experienced, we're La Habra. Does anyone know where La Habra is? Oh, good, that's a good sign. So La Habra is a small 7 square mile city community that is multi-generational. I'm even part of that. There's 4 generations of us that lived in La Habra. I moved there in 1968, and it is truly a community where these are our future workers. People do not leave La Habra. Families are there multi-generational. They don't. And the why is, and the work that I'm doing is we do a huge food giving program, and we really trying to find out the why of why are people in that situation. So we want to help people, not to enable and create entitlement, but to help to empower families.
We can keep it on the Scott train. So one of the pieces of data that I found the most compelling and perhaps the most frustrating, I'm sure for many in the room, is that 53% of children in Orange County enter public kindergarten ready across the 5 domains, and that's communication, cognitive, emotional, social, and physical. And we can do much better than that. And I have learned that from many of my partners who are in the room. As Lisa shared, limited access to high-quality education creates gaps that begin much earlier than kindergarten and persist throughout life. But we have good news, because research shows that investing in early childhood education can return up to a 13% ROI across an individual's lifetime, and that is a huge return. I work in a bank, and I'm not a banker, but I'm pretty sure we would all appreciate that return on our investment, right? Yeah, my boss says it's good. So, but what that means is that when we invest in when we invest in early childhood, it's more effective and efficient than trying to close those gaps later in life.
Can I? Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I think watching the video and just hearing about the data, I had the opportunity to hear some of the information prior in the last 2 years. But one of the things that really stands out for me is how many of our families actually know that their students or that their children are starting off TK kinder and they're already at a disadvantage, that they're already behind. So that's one of the takeaways that I always think about, like, how do we get this information to our families so that they can prepare? Because you can't prepare for something you don't know and you're not aware of. So that's my takeaway.
Well, for me, this was actually really emotional, because I feel like I've been doing this type of work for a long time alone, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, where I feel like because of a grant that we've received, the work that we do, I'm no longer alone in this. I've been working with this exact demographic, even from La Habra to Anaheim to Costa Mesa, exactly in the areas that you saw where the demographics we're looking at, the most vulnerable population. And first, I wanted to say thank you that you're all here, because it's so nice to see like-minded people and not feel alone again, and people who I think we might be looking at the financial aspect of things, but just as a humanitarian, to recognize that we can do something to lift up our communities, and from these same communities, we can raise leaders. I can guarantee that to you. I have been part of that myself as a pediatrician over 2 decades now. I have kids who are first generation educated. Doctors, there's 2. There's a PA coming up soon. And this is literally the first person in their entire family ever educated. I've had more than that. So we can definitely do it, and I can tell you for sure we need the resources to be able to do that. Especially for those of us who are working frontline, I can tell you that we need that to be able to achieve that, and what an amazing goal that is. And when they showed the child that became an adult, I was just thinking exactly that. That child, what could we have done to help that child become a successful adult? And certainly they're part of our workforce later on, that's for sure. So yeah, it's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to be among all these like-minded people. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
So Ben, this next question's for you. What are practical ways to empower parents and caregivers with knowledge and resources to support their child's growth?
Okay, who got the easy question? Let me want to swap. I think one of the things I'd like to do is I'd like to tap in a little bit to my family story. So about almost 3 years, my son was diagnosed with ASD. He's on the spectrum. Nobody in my family, neither on my wife's family, had any previous history or experience, with something like that. So really quick, we were thrown into the deep end, and they're like, okay, figure out how to swim. And we couldn't. So we're looking for resources. We're trying to connect with someone. It was during, the pandemic. So my son, we were actually having a hard time to get him in front of a doctor to, officially diagnose him. We kind of had already seen like, okay, there's some things going on, no language and a lot of repetitive, very, very typical autistic kind of behaviors. So we started looking for resources, and we both speak the language, we know people in the community, we know where to find resources, and we were still struggling. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm here. So when I think about how can we empower our parents, I always think about myself, right? Like, how can I be empowered? And I think one of the things is really seeing parents and seeing us as a partner versus someone that we're doing something for, right? You don't educate a partner, you share information with them. You invite them to collaborate. And sometimes in meetings, like, oh, we just have to teach the parents. We have to teach the parents. It's like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of information out there they don't have. So for me, the first one is like seeing our parents as partners. The other is inviting them into spaces like this. So I think First Five does an excellent job at that. I've gotten to go to meetings where I'm like, I've never spoken to an elected official, but here I am, because I believe in this work, right? But there's meetings that happen like this all over the county that we don't get invited to as parents, right? There's a lot of really powerful, big information that is shared about our communities that we don't get access to, but until it's like, hey, did you know that you're behind? I'm like, wait, what? So I think that's the other. And one other way is just asking big organizations to be patient with us as we're learning. It's busy and it's fast work, right? When you're getting data and you're trying to create programs and you're trying to solve, some of the county's issues, it's hard to slow down, to sit with the family, to have to translate, to have to bring an interpreter, to explain acronyms. When my son was diagnosed, they threw like 1,000 acronyms at us. I'm like, what? What is IEP? What is all these things, right? And we're like Googling. I felt like a grandpa who was Googling LOL. What is LOL? But I'll get paused for the laugh. But I think, just being patient with us as we, learn this information. And the last one is really allowing us to be champions. Like, we want to really cheer our community. We really want to bring information back to our communities. And so thank you, First Five, for, inviting me to this space. There's nothing more powerful for me. I work at a school, so when I see a mom who's navigated their son's IEP for 2 years, and there's a new mom coming in whose son is either on the spectrum or has any kind of neurodivergency challenges that they're facing, and she's teaching the other mom, like, oh, look, this is what you have to do. You need to talk to this person, and look, here's a resource from the county, and here's a resource from Santa Ana, and I just sit back and I'm like, oh, you're doing my job, but go for it, because it's so much more powerful, right? They take the ownership and they trust, the families around them. So just a few little, nuggets. Thank you.
And I always say to my staff, and I think this resonates with what you're saying, is we can see the problems, particularly like Lisa's comment on well child visits, right? We know parents aren't able to get their kid to a well child visit. And it's very easy for those of us that understand what that implication means to continue to talk about the need for a well child visit and tell the parent they need to do that. But it's like screaming louder to someone that already feels bad and can't get there. The conversation needs to change. It needs to be about why can't you get there and how do we help you get there? Do we need to get you to a provider that has evening hours? Do we need to get to a provider that speaks your language and the native language that you speak so that you're not trying to translate and understand at the same time? What can the system do to respond differently? If we want to see those numbers change, we have to be in partnership with parent. And I think that's the greatest gift that Ben's participation with First 5 has been, is it's made us slow down. It's made us be accountable to the people whose behavior we're actually trying to support and change, and we are all driving to that outcome. But what we can't do is continue to put flyers together that talk about the importance of a well child visit if we're not willing to sit with them and say, what's the barrier? How do we alleviate that? How do we make it easier for you to get that done? Because we know you want to get that done. How do we help you get that done? So that, I thank you, Ben, for all the work that you've done and for us. Doctor, my next question is for you. What do you see as the benefit of using a whole child, whole family approach to providing healthcare services? And what are you doing to address the holistic needs of kids and their families?
Okay, so I mentioned a little bit earlier that I've been doing this for almost 2 decades, working primarily with federally qualified healthcare centers, currently with Our Selves. So I know this work pretty well. Even in La Habra, I worked with a federally qualified healthcare center, almost 9 years there. And I work exactly with the community we're talking about. As a pediatrician, before First 5 came along and we were able to get a grant, I mentioned I'm actually a strange pediatrician, I'll be honest. I'm very close to my patients, maybe too close. I even have those that have graduated on Facebook. I stay in contact with them. That's how I know what they're doing. And I do tend to get involved if they need some kind of support, let's say when they want to go to college and so forth. So I'm a little bit strange, but that's how much I actually love my patients, so hopefully that's not too strange. And I loved hearing your story, by the way, as a pediatrician. So this kind of work was not foreign to me, but like I said, I didn't have the support system I do now, so I'm gonna explain to you what's the difference. So at my prior clinics, it's just me, myself, and I can do a referral, let's say. And a lot of the screeners that we now institute with the Healthy Steps program through First 5 OC are screeners I never used before. So topics come up that never came up before, and I'll give you examples. But just to explain it a little bit, now through First 5 OC, this is our second time we got a grant. We're excited. So our second clinic will be involved with Healthy Steps soon. What Healthy Steps is, it's a program where at every well child exam, we give screeners. This is between the ages of 0 to 3, but just think right before they turn 4. Okay, so we give screeners, and as you know, usually babies will come in just days after birth, week after birth. So from that initial visit, we have someone who's called a Healthy Steps coordinator. In our office, she's a therapist. Beautifully, she is actually from the same community. She grew up there. She is one of those leaders I'm talking about, which gives me goosebumps because I love that. And she's also just a role model for the other children that come in. We always mention, hey, she's just like you. She came from the same community. So what would happen is, as a Healthy Steps coordinator, she goes in, she meets with the family, she looks at the screeners. If something shows up in the screeners, she might just talk to them a little bit about it, then comes out of the office, speaks to the providers, and we kind of have a game plan of how to approach the visit as necessary, right? We may not need to do anything, but we may need to do a lot. And then we have what's called a dyadic visit. This is very different, okay? So now she comes in with me in the appointment. While I do the appointment, she's there. She can pick up on a lot of things. Sometimes it's just important to recognize this diagnosis of autism. I am very, very loving towards my patients, but I'm still a doctor. And there's been a few times where, even though the parent received what I said, in my opinion, very well, apparently when I left, she broke down crying, let's say. Okay, and to the Healthy Steps coordinator. And it's a foreign language. Okay, we need to do this and this and this, and there's, a whole bunch of steps, and she's just sitting there thinking about the diagnosis itself, right? So now we have someone to hold her hand. That's just autism, right? We have so many other things that we deal with. And in between these visits, if our Healthy Steps coordinator feels the necessity, she will also call and make sure, for example, did they make their referrals? We have a highly illiterate population. You wouldn't know that until they start filling their forms. And we need to support them filling the forms. These are our current workforce. These are the people that work for even our clinic. But there are many that are illiterate. We support them through that. And a lot of things show up that I will tell you, these screeners usually are developmental screeners. I'm sure you guys know that. Anyone who has a child will know you have to go through those forms, sorry. But anyhow, so those are developmental screeners, but now we have social economic screeners. We have trauma-based screeners. These are huge, and in these, my God, there's so many things I could tell you. I'm gonna give you two quick stories. One is, I had a 1-month-old who just, regular, well child, and in the screener, it showed that the home environment wasn't safe. And so this mother would have never brought this up. So we talked to her. Turns out she's been going through some serious domestic violence. And exactly that same day, the husband had said, "You will not return home. You cannot return home." She didn't know what to do, so it was an emotional meeting. She cried tons, and our Healthy Steps coordinator actually was able to help her get into a shelter. This is because of Healthy Steps, I guarantee to you, because I know my patients very well. She had other kids. She didn't even want to bring it up. They're embarrassed to bring it up. So I think that's one of the things also that I noticed was it removes the stigma. Another one was a mother with 6 children. I know all these kids really well. And really positive human being, always super happy. This day was no different. And it was a physical for her youngest. And I just saw that she had seems like financial insecurity, food insecurity in the screeners. And just asked, "Hey, what's going on?" Because that wasn't the case before. And I know the family well. Turns out she's homeless now. 2 months, 6 kids. And, I remember that too. Sorry, I'm kind of emotional, so I'm trying not to cry about that one. But anyways, I remember her breaking down and telling me she was so embarrassed to bring this up to us at all. And so they were living in 2 cars. What had happened is her husband had a stroke, had serious medical complications afterwards, lost his job, and now she has these 6 kids. And I'm talking a strong, wonderful human being that was still smiling in front of me. And until we brought this out, we got our Healthy Steps coordinator, obviously, to work with her on multiple levels, even emotionally, but we involved even our case manager at that point. We were able to help with getting a place for her, help with rent, with utilities, because Our Selves does that. We have a food pantry. Our social services department is actually very, very strong. And everything's good now. I mean, it's stable, but it took a lot of work and it took a lot of hands in that pot, right, to help this family. And what I want to say is that, let me tell you, those kids are actually very smart. They're doing very good in school. They always have been, those that are a little older. But I don't know, the trauma that they faced during that time that they went through. At least I know one thing is that we were able to lessen the trauma. We were able to support them, and yes, from them, I guarantee you there are some leaders that will come out of it. So for me, this, I don't know, this is the most holistic care I've ever been able to give, but as a team. And I very, very much appreciate Healthy Steps for that, First 5 OC for allowing it, because clearly without the grant, we wouldn't even have our Healthy Steps coordinator. Or a workflow that allows for this. And one last thing is, I think as a provider, I'm very good with developmental screening. I don't really need a lot of screeners, but for screeners with socioeconomic and so forth, yes, obviously. But there's a lot of providers that don't put emphasis on development. You'll go to your physical and you may not even know or get your diagnosis. I have seen those kids. I have seen 9-year-olds that, I've diagnosed 9-year-olds with autism, 7-year-old recently as well. They had been going to other clinics, so this happens. So one thing I like about this is that those providers also have to use that workflow and now have to address these things. So I appreciate our multiple levels, but this is sort of the picture that I can give you. It's a great impact.
Let's talk a little bit more about those circles, right? So what the doctor is evidencing is so many times, probably some of you in your mind are thinking, wait, pediatricians haven't been doing developmental screenings the way they should? I thought that's what they're, get paid to do, if you will. And as we all know, the reimbursement system for providers is complex. It's very the pain point is exacerbated in terms of the number of appointments they have to get through in a day and the pay on that. So I shout out to CalOptima. I see Dr. Rose is here. One of the things that this Healthy Steps program has allowed us to do is allow everyone in that clinical practice to work to the top of their license. So we're not asking doctors to become LCSWs anymore. Right? We're asking doctors to be doctors and work in partnership with an LCSW or another licensed staff member. And then what we're doing is making sure when the state of California increases a benefit within the Medi-Cal system, that we're making sure the clinics are in the best case to go after that benefit and bill for it. So it's a sustainable, ongoing service. So this is when we talk about the systems of care or the distribution of resources, prioritizing early childhood, it's the work that the doctor just referenced for us. It's that expansion of the medical team within that environment, and how do we prioritize early childhood and do more prevention work versus waiting for the problem to occur and then trying to fix the problem. So hopefully that was your takeaway, and also just trying to explain a little bit of that work of when we say prioritize early childhood, that's what we're meaning. It's like getting in there and finding these little levers that we can start to push and pull on that help prioritize early childhood within the flow of work, no matter the environment. So next, Scott, I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about your work within your community and what you've been doing to prioritize early childhood and share that, foster that culture of shared responsibility.
Well, in La Habra, our focus from what we do is partnership and collaborate. That's what really engages people. And I think the number one thing is involve your city. Your city leadership has been key. Ours is, in fact, our council member, Rose Espinoza here, who has Rosie's Garage. That was the root of it, having really our city on board with the work we are doing. And then we're diligent and selective in who we do business with in partner and collaborate. Because are they committed to the mission of what we're trying to do? Our health and wellness is one of our pillars at the collaborative. The other is early childhood. And it's based on the data that La Habra is, ranks very low on that in Orange County. And so partnering and collaborating with people, we have Our Lady of Guadalupe Church, where I was a business manager for 30 years before retiring. And so we have the faith-based community, we have the city, we have VCC, the Gary Center, which is another FQHC. And they all pull their weight in that. And La Habra Collaborative has our partners in it. We're just a small nonprofit, but we have partners in it in the community that help engage in that. So we want to bring financial literacy. We want to bring nutritious food. We want to, it's the whole family, and we want to be selective of who we partner and collaborate, And the next thing is really engaging those community partners. So how can we get them involved and it's a win-win for everybody? You're not going to force this nonprofit or this organization to do something that's not in their wheelhouse, so to speak. And then involving the community. I have retired board members that I've kind of knocked off with First Five, I call it. I'm knocking off their Kid Builder events and activities. So we actually have that at our Readiness on the Road. And I have retired RNs, school board members who are actually participating in that. They're newly retired. We're engaging our community and involving them in what we're doing to raise awareness of where we are with the little ones.
Thank you. Denise, can you talk a little bit about the role of philanthropy in early childhood?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited to share. You saw in the video, you heard from Jared, this is our 20th anniversary of PNC Grow Up Great. So for 20 years, PNC has been committed to this space across the country. And it's something that we don't just do a little bit in, we do a lot in a variety of ways. So I'm excited to share some of those with you. Recognizing that educators, parents, and caregivers play such a significant role in the early education, the parents and caregivers as those educators at home, and then obviously, where would we be without our early educators giving all of us that first step in life. We partner with experts that focus on brain development, and we partner with them to create resources that help these groups of parents and caregivers and educators to make their lives a little easier. So some of the things that we put out are bilingual resources that are free, available online, so they're accessible to our broader community, and these give parents ideas of ways they can engage in different domains. So it might be having conversations with their children. They're not expecting them to respond at quite a young age, but when you're hearing these diverse words, it helps build your brain. And so giving them concepts and ideas of things they can talk about and where they can leverage this, because when they get home at the end of the day, they're probably tired and aren't thinking of this off the top of their head. So we just want to make it easier for parents to engage. We also have plans that can be used in the classroom, and those are also made free to educators, so they can use this information provided by experts and just implement this important educational tools in their classrooms. One of those partners that we work with, you may have heard of a little organization, Sesame Workshop, and we have some beloved resources here. So we'll invite you, if you have children in your life, whether or not they're yours, to pick up some of those resources and share with them. But Sesame is one of the partners that we work with on a national level to provide those resources. Additionally, beyond those national grant investments, we invest locally. And if those of you are here and you're in a corporate organization and you're feeling inspired, please visit Table 4, because many of our partners are here today, and I would love to introduce you and make connections to the wonderful work they're doing in this space. But locally, we partner with organizations that are experts in this area, and we empower them to bring additional programs to our community. So the areas that we invest in are direct education to children, parent and caregiver engagement, and then professional development for educators. Two other areas, if I may add. We talked about philanthropic investments through grants, but we also engaged in the last year in a groundbreaking, first of its kind opportunity of sponsorship with First Five. And so we partnered with them to bring the Kid Builders programming to 5 communities across Orange County. So leveraging that EDI data to identify areas of greatest opportunity to impact those folks those children that are in that 25% and 22% highest at risk categories. They brought their programming, and along with the exercises and demonstrating for parents how they can do wonderful learning exercises at little to no cost at home. They also brought community partners that could refer parents to various resources across the county. So I also invite you to take some of those resources from the First Five table. And finally, another way that we invest is through our time with volunteerism. So PNC gives our employees 40 hours per year to volunteer supporting early education. And through that, over the course of our 20 years supporting PNC Grow Up Great, our employees have donated more than 1 million hours in our communities across the country, something that we're really proud of. And so, this leadership that business can take to inspire, prioritize, and really get employees engaged. We don't look at this just from a funding perspective. We look at all the ways that we can bring our resources to support, just a better community for our children.
Terrific, thank you. So we're going to talk a little bit about successes, which you just kind of made a really nice transition for us, and all the successes that PNC Bank has had in their commitment to early childhood. Wondering if the other panelists want to talk a little bit about one success in the work that you're doing in prioritizing early childhood, if something comes to mind, and sharing that with the group.
Yeah, I can share. So about 2 summers ago, we were doing some work, and the first time I kind of really got around the EDI data. And when you look on the chart, like the dark blue part, that's where the campus that I work at is at. It's a community in Santa Ana. So I just saw a lot of blue, and I'm like, what's going on right here? What are we gonna do about it was a real question. So I was able to take the information to our admin team. I said, hey, look, this is a reflection of our community where we offer TK, transitional kinder on campus. And, obviously we want to support the families. Traditionally, our school never offered a summer school program for, TK or kinder, because they're just coming in. So, it's for students who've already been in the campus. So he said, okay, we don't know what you want to do, but go for it. And I said, all right, let me reach out to First Five. And Christina and Anna, they were like super great. They're like, we'll support you. Just let us know what we want to do, what we want, this summer program, this bridge program to be for the students. And I said, okay, so I started writing some things down. And actually, Daniela Valenzuela, who's here from PBS SoCal, also jumped on. And together I said, let's offer something for the students and then also something for the moms. And, it's usually the moms that come. There's a few dads, the real heroes, ¿no es cierto? But we were able to do a bridge program where, students came in, they were having, full instruction, lunch, a lot of play-based learning, and then the moms were getting workshops, and all this information was put before them. And this past summer, Spectrum News actually came because they wanted to do a follow-up on the story, because they came out originally, and they wanted to connect with some families. There's one student, I can't really say his name, but call him Christian, it's a good name. In case there's a Christian here, shout out. But I was able to connect them to this, just a story. And so the parents, our young parents, the student came in, and not that I'm an expert at all to diagnose students, but just from my own experiences, I'm like, something's going on here. How do I tell the parent that something is possibly there might be important for them to take their their child to the doctor to get diagnosed or explore that. So I did tell the parent, like, hey, there might be some some things like, oh yeah, he's just a little hyper, and I'm like, I mean, that can be it. I said, but you should just maybe connect with your doctor. There might be something else, before we start the school year officially. So she did set up an appointment. By the time we started, officially started TK, he had already had a diagnosis, and we were able to put an IEP in place fairly quick, where if he would have waited until the teacher maybe identified some of it, it would have been, months down the road, and trust me, months down the road until, because schools also have to check their boxes, right? Okay, let's follow up on the student. Let's give them 3 months to see if we can, implement some strategies. And so I think that's something that's like super tangible of what this data and like just the work that is happening can really have on our families.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I think for me, a big success was when we created this Hillcrest, which was a cul-de-sac in the middle of La Habra, backs up to the railroad tracks. It was more of a homeless encampment, a lot of that. And we really transformed that with the help and the support of our city and all of our collaboration and partnerships. We were able to really build something. And we've been working on this. I've been involved in this since about 2018, really actively. And when the opportunity for the First Five grant came up, it really was not only life-changing for what we're doing, the work we're doing, but really for families. And out of that, then other people who who have grants, money, and they're trying to check their boxes off on things. That's not one of my favorite things to do, but they've actually invested in it. So I have Providence put in the outdoor physical fitness equipment that just got put in with the support of the city, and it's actually fenced in now, about to be unveiled in the next couple weeks. And that's something that our moms that participate in Readiness on the Road wanted to have physical activities and things like that. And then the American Heart Association put in a blood pressure, one of those Higgy machines that are in like Rite Aids that you can monitor your blood pressure. Then Orange County Healthcare Agency, I was part of their Power Equity and OC movement. All these things kind of came together when you really do the work and present it well, that it's a good investment in the community at hand. When the first 5 OC grants started, we're in our second year of it. We just started our second year. In that first year, it was really building the relationships. And now I'm probably most excited about is we do Readiness on the Road there for the 0 to 5. Parents come to a class that's hosted by the school district, music and movement. Then afterwards, they get diapers, and then they get to shop in the grocery store. But it's really built a community for the moms and the dads and grandparents. So they all connect in one way or the other. There's this interval, even in the summer. So in the summer, though, the school's out, so they don't do that. But we continue that. We actually do have kid builder activities for the moms while they're waiting to shop. And out of that, we've started, and this year is our second year of the grant. Our goal is really building community champions. And I probably have about a dozen summer grandparents and most of the moms. And they're off thinking of, they want me to have an entrepreneur thing for the moms that do home-based businesses. They want to have the ideas that are coming out of these moms being engaged is just something to see. So I probably weekly I'm giving tours to people to even just see and witness firsthand what these families are able to do and engage in. So really that's probably the success for me is just, again, collaborating and partnering with like-minded organizations and really do, my work in the Catholic Church, time, talent, and treasure is, it really has risen to the top. So when you mentioned that, and I had no idea what CSR was, corporate social responsibility, until I attended from this Equity and OC, a thing at panel at United Way, and it all clicked because I have Starbucks coming. They're supporting a community garden we're starting to educate the parents on. I have FedEx who's in town. I have just so many people that want to really be a part of that. And so there's something for everyone.
Thank you.
Do we have time for me to jump in? Okay, a couple of things. Something I neglected to mention with regard to volunteerism. For many of us in a corporate setting, I forgot to point out the obvious. It is a wonderful employee retention tool. So, as we think about workforce and maybe the challenges of hiring and keeping workforce, a lot of those entering are really curious about what corporate organizations are doing and how they, as an individual, can give back as a part of that. But I also would love to share another success story, maybe two. So you were talking about networks and relationships that are being built among groups, and that is something that we've seen with some of our partners as well. So with Pretend City Children's Museum, a grant through the PNC Foundation funded a program that they call Good to Grow. It's in its second year. That program is focused on educating parents about child development, allowing a space to collaborate, meet other parents and build those supportive networks, and then also to empower them as drivers of their children's education. So in the first year of that program, there was an average of 64% improvement in the ages and stages questionnaire that they did from the beginning to the end of a 6-month program. So that's a pretty wonderful improvement. They just wrapped up their second year of that, and there were 52 families that participated, and they had wonderful engagement of entire families. Another partner, Beyond Blindness, implemented a program as well, or re-implemented a program, and they have found some wonderful success with the parents really wanting to build networks together. They had some informal collaboration in their first year, and in the past year, they have engaged over 102 children served, I believe 90-ish parents, I don't remember the number exactly, but they have also now built a formal program for counseling for the parents, because that was a need that was identified, so they're able to leverage their staff in a different way there. And this program is also serving a space that was a bit of a parent and me desert. There weren't a lot of opportunities for those parents for early engagement, and they've created that space for them. Thank you.
Okay, I'll share real
Go for it.
quick. I mean, this is a little different because it's just medical, but it's affecting the kids in exactly the ways we're talking about. One of the things we found out, and I'm thinking about you, is exactly the diagnosis of autism and where do you go from here. So in response to, I think, just figuring out that the parents are having a hard time knowing what to do, and despite as much help as we can give, even the telephone calls, sometimes it's still very daunting, and it's understandable. So we did put together a really nice what do you do next, like steps. It's written out really well in Spanish and English. We actually have someone who used to work for the Center for Autism working with us, which is exciting. And so she's also been in great support of that. So I think that's actually really helped. We do have a relatively high population of autistic children, I would say, and compared to my prior clinics as well. So that's been a big change, and I think that's super supportive, and it's been working out. The other one is we instituted ACEs all the way up till 21, and that has brought, I mean, besides all the successes from the 2 stories that I mentioned to me is success, there's a multitude. We've been doing this for over 3 years. But being able to sort of take what we learned from Healthy Steps and move it forward to our older kids have actually brought up a lot of success there too. Increased, I think, trust even with the providers. And that's really important for teenagers and their success. So the things that I can think of. Yeah.
Terrific. Okay, so this is our last quick question as we get ready to take questions from the audience. So that's note to you all to think about good questions you want to ask us. But if you guys could share one takeaway from our conversation or the data points that you believe is critical for action, or any insights that you would pass on to the audience, right? Here in the room today, we have fellow travelers. We have people that at least were interested enough in early childhood to show up today. So our Army is in the room. What would we tell them? What is our takeaway for them from today?
Well, the takeaway for me is I have hope. I have hope that all of you even care about this topic. I mean, that you took the time out of your day and came to participate that. And it really does take teamwork. My other life was also a 6th grade teacher, and teamwork was always a big thing. You know, together women achieve more. And I live that every day. It's a great way to experience what have that. And I'm so grateful that First 5 had the faith and trust in me. I'm looking at you, Christina, who took the chance on our leadership for La Habra's Engaged Neighborhood, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity.
It would be investing in high-quality early education is a very important driver in economic and social mobility. And so for our future of everything that's successful in Orange County, we owe it to ourselves and the next generations to invest in this space.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just collective impact. I think there's so many of us here that when we work in our silos, we do great work, right? Everyone's here because they're doing great work. But when we work together and we're really, having these big organizations come into, some of our spaces, it's just powerful. So I think that's my takeaway.
And I just think collectively we have a lot more power. Where we can actually make change, and we're seeing it from the examples itself, but I'm sure we can have countless more examples. But I think just recognizing that together we can actually achieve this much better. Even for my story, you can see that I couldn't do this alone. And then I mentioned that before too, and I really agree how touching it is. I mean, just even the video, but just the presentation itself and seeing everyone's faces here, it's wonderful to see that. And yeah, these basically we're together in all this. We are a team, all together. Yeah.
Terrific. I think this is the point in the program where we ask if there's any audience questions.
I'm sorry if I bring up a sore subject, but I've heard the effects of this equated. I'm sorry if I bring up a sore subject, but I've heard the effects of this equated with a traditional social determinant of health, and that is, what are you guys seeing as the effect of the pandemic on our 0 to 5s now that we're kind of coming out of that, and we've got kids that are old enough to maybe articulate things. And what, as a community, can we do to help that?
First, I think speech delay is one of the biggest I've seen. But there's so much from mental health. These communities were the most impacted, I would say. I had many children who lost family members. And so obviously the impact of that was huge. So you can look at it that way. One is just the mental health aspect, the years that they lost in education, the isolation. So definitely we're seeing some developmental delays, not just speech really, because honestly, if you put a child in a room with a whole bunch of children, they tend to learn from each other and you'll see quite an advancement. And if you don't, and they're just at home alone, which is kind of what took place, I think even if you talk to a lot of educators, I've talked to teachers, and they see the same thing. So the developmental delays are there still. We're still feeling the effects of that, by the way. I don't think I've given so much speech therapy as I have since then. And then obviously the mental health support is necessary, and then financial. So a lot of these families, let's say there's a lot of people who are working jobs that unfortunately they couldn't work in anymore. And so the financial stressors are huge on these families. So I think our food pantry was used quite a bit. Our social services was used, wow. I think that they were super busy, and I think we're still there. So I don't think that the impact is unfortunately still there, and we still need to address those concerns. And I wouldn't say that they've lessened significantly at all. To me, it just feels almost the same as a year and a half ago, unfortunately.
So I appreciate that comment, because it just came to mind. There's these readiness on the road activities we do them out in neighborhoods as well. And first thing that came to mind was this little girl, obviously born during the pandemic, had no social skills. So we not only have an activity that she's clueless not being a part of, literally in a year and a half, she is engaged, involved. When we first had it, and we have a store, a grocery store, she is like peeling those cutie oranges, throwing them on the ground in the grocery store. No clue. We have a homeless area. She's pulling out feminine products out of a container that are all over the floor, no social skills whatsoever. And she is totally ready for kindergarten right now because of those simple things of investing in the community to have opportunities where they can get together, because they weren't in a child care, and I use that all the time. My grandkids are 8, 7, 6, and 4, and they've been in nice child care programs, so they're not at that. But the families who are not in a program, and they don't have those social skills. So I think it's really important to have those opportunities in the community where the moms, the parents, the grandparents have an opportunity to bring their kids to have, like now we have Kid Builder activity every week, and we change them every week because it's the same family, so we're engaging them in different things. So I think that's so important, and that was a result because she was so little.
And I think what we hear in those responses is it's important to remember that in early childhood, there is the things like social determinants of health or the impacts of the pandemic, those don't necessarily have to predict that child's full potential. That buffering experiences build resiliency and build the capacity for children to continue to grow, and to remember that those neurodevelopmental pathways are being built in those first 5 years. So as much as negative experiences might interrupt it, positive experiences grow and buffer those negative experiences. So hopefully that's a little bit of what you took away, is the more as a community we can do to buffer the impact of the pandemic, the better that generation of children is going to come out. So it's going to take all of our efforts and commitment and investment.
I just want to quickly agree with what's happening, because what you mentioned, I've seen many times. So I completely agree with you. Once they start going through programs, and this is so huge. So I'm in the medical setting, but I know people like yourself, have a lot of different community building programs that go on, and this really supports the children's development. And it's true, as a positive note, I have seen the same. He's right. It's literally about a year and a half later, once they get the services and they're in these schools, that kids bounce back really well. But it's that idea of getting those services, right? Are we getting those screeners done? Are we getting those services done? And what services are in the community? So, yeah.
Well, I just want to thank all our panelists for this in-depth discussion. My name is Saga Conroy from Orange County Supervisor Chairman Wagner's office, and also I'm serving on the City of Mission Vallejo as commissioner. So we have been partnered with a Early 5 in the past, providing a fentanyl crisis, a town hall, educating our younger families and with younger children. So I would just want to take this opportunity reach out to all of you that if in the future you do need putting more events in the community, welcome to partner with the county and the city. I do have a very quick question for Denise regarding your company. Since as an employer, you provide 40 hours volunteer hours for your employee to volunteer in such activities. May I ask what exactly activities are they volunteering for? Do you provide some trainings for them to facilitate such needs? And I definitely appreciate what you do for this effort. Thank you.
Yeah, no, great question. Thank you. Thank you for the question and for the opportunity to share a little more about our volunteerism program. So we actually have, as part of our national directive from our team, some directions on the types of volunteerism that might be appropriate for us. A lot of it is driven by our partners and what they need. So they're working with children. There sometimes are limitations. So some of our things may actually not interact with children at all. So we may be able to prep teacher materials that relieves a little bit of an administrative burden from our very hardworking educators, and then allows them to bring something fun to their community or their classroom. Some of the other things we've done, one of the things that PNC does is we have something called the Mobile Learning Adventure. We actually have two. They're large trucks that travel across the country, and they come into our market, and we make them available at community events, and our employees have the opportunity to volunteer, interact with parents and caregivers, just share with them some activities that they can do with their children to think about careers. And this one is all about making decisions, and so it's a little engagement there. But in terms of some of the other volunteerism things, like I said, we do a lot with our partners that maybe they have an event where they could use a few extra hands or something that can help with their classroom. And one other program that we do, we partner with Lakeshore Learning, which is an educational materials company, and we have some custom-made kits. So as an employee engagement opportunity and volunteerism in the office, we assemble these kits and then we can donate them to our partners to share with families. So those kits consist of educational games. There's one on alphabet, counting, that sort of thing. So we really try to focus on those learning opportunities or just ways to empower the educators to have a little more time in their day with things that we might be able to support.
Oh, we got one more.
Denise, I think I'm going to continue to pick on you or anybody who wants to respond to this. Programmatically, I'm getting everything you're talking about, but to me, and I just finished reading First Five, always thank you for your dad. I'm constantly quoting it. I work for Catalyst Family. We serve over 10,000 families throughout California. And right out of the headlines, it's this ever-increasing gap of cost to these parents. And in fact, I've joined them to fill in that gap because it's just ever-increasing, and it's a lot of these families who desperately want to stay in the workforce, desperately want to continue on their professional path, but just can't afford to and decide. And we even have staff members with a discount say, you know what, I'm going to stay, I'm not going to come back to teaching, I'm going to stay at home with the kids. I'm looking at PNC. I'm just saying to you, you've obviously are excited about and the value of early childhood development and how it makes economic sense. I guess my question to you and maybe the panel and you, Kim, how can we, put this in air quotes, educate the for-profit community that this makes smart economic sense to either philanthropically or on the tax base or however we're looking at it, but how are you talking to your corporate clients on the banking side to get them excited about supporting early childhood development? Thank you for the panel.
Yeah, no, challenge accepted. I love that question. And, I think Jared may be able to attest that, I'll share a little insider knowledge. I actually don't have children. And my friends are finding this very amusing that all of a sudden, I come to PNC and I am sharing how important it is to do this work. And I'm asking them if they're using diverse words with their children. They're like, we're doing that. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you are. But, I am so excited about this and I believe in it so much that I would be happy to share this with any corporate partners that would listen. We have found that investing in this space is so important for all of our communities, and this is something we're doing nationally, and for 20 years we've seen the value, and our executives have seen the value to continue funding it, and they're also, they like to serve in a variety of spaces where they can share this message. Jared, myself, we would love to be ambassadors to anyone that would love to listen and maybe consider this as their primary philanthropic giving area as well.
All right, I think that concludes our program for today, and I'm going to invite John to come back on up to the stage.
All right, thank you, Kim. Can we get a big thank you of applause to our great panel for today? Wow, great job, you guys. Thank you so much. What is LOL? Anyway. Thank you all for being here. A couple of other thank yous. Please thank the Hyatt folks for the great job they did today, putting together today's lunch. And we also have the communications lab folks who did a great job in putting this together. Georgie in the blue and Alex, wherever you are, and your team, great job. Last thing before I let you go, everybody's got a phone. Bring it out. On the back here of your little flyer you all received, you will see our upcoming announcements. I don't know if this... You'll see our upcoming announcements. Okay. Sorry, you're stuck with me. Go ahead and on your calendars mark September 20th, October 25th, and on the back there is one more. November 22nd. Those are our three next programs. September 20th will be our Hispanic Heritage Month program. October is going to be our annual housing program. And in November, I'm very excited to announce that we're going to have Dr. Wallace Walrod and our friends at OCBC. We're going to partner with them, and we're going to present the 2024 Community Indicators Report. So, September 20, October 25th, and November 22nd. With that, please drive safe, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Take care.